are going to convene the meeting of the Council Economic Development Committee. I'm joined today by Council members Jose Huizar, Gil Cedillo, Nuri Martinez, and we have an action-packed agenda we're going to get started on.
Just two.
Without objection, we're going to move items 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10 on consent. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 10. We're going to receive and file item 6 without objection. That takes us to item 1.
Item number 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Jan Perry as permanent general manager of the Economic and Workforce Development Department.
Mrs. Perry, let me invite you up to the table. You certainly are a veteran of these proceedings. And we'd like to give you a minute or two to make some comments. And
okay. All right.
we appreciate your presence with us this afternoon.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the council members. I have been acting as the interim general manager of the Economic and Workforce Development Department since July the 1st. I just wanted to give you a quick summation of some of the things that we've been doing. I think overall, we are headed towards mirroring some of the critical roles that the former redevelopment agency played in leveraging grant resources, establishing very strong connections between development and the labor market, and attracting private sector investment to ensure fair economic development opportunities and, of course, job creation, and to support advanced planning activities and building out critical infrastructure through public and private ventures in the city. The question's been raised, and I have begun conversations with a number of you and are scheduling more visits to council offices with the members. Is what do we do with our economic resources and how much do we need? Now, we are in the process of reconciling our collateral with the redevelopment agency, and we will be receiving assets back next spring. It's my intent that economic development should provide a return on our investment, not only tax increment for city services, but to be done in a manner that supports both the city's interests and the community's interests. I've said at committee before that we're working on an economic development plan, working with HCID on common interests in terms of moving projects forward. I will be at some point here again to ask for resources for consultant services to ensure that the department does its absolute best to establishing underwriting criteria that delivers the best outcomes for the department and moves projects forward so that we can prevent projects being stalled for years, and everybody knows of one in their area that's been stalled for years. We're working right now to reconcile the department's budget. We have a deficit. It's not surprising given the warp speed in the department's realignment, and this is something that will have to be corrected, and I hope to make a very strong case through the budget process to restore $800,000 to department operations for equipment, $500,000 in community development block grant dollars for the remainder of this fiscal year. We're about to post a position for Assistant General Manager for Economic Development and look forward to having this individual work with all of your planning staffs.
I'm sorry, what's the position again?
Assistant General Manager for Economic Development. To work with planning and building and safety and all of your staffs to move this department forward. Just on a side note, because I know this is on the agenda today, I have written a letter asking to delay the bids move, the Business Improvement District's move to the Economic and Workforce Development Department. Our lease negotiations with our property owner have been very, very slow. We're working with a space planner to help us move our build-out forward. This is going to take about 6 months, and the business improvement districts do need a public counter and offices for balloting. So that's an issue that still needs to be worked out. Most importantly, this department is a delivery system for the city. My goal is to align our efforts, our economic development efforts, to deliver the best outcomes that we can provide. In the past, as a council member, I worked to deliver project labor agreements for major public works projects, and that was a template that was used by the redevelopment agency and also established at the MTA. Just to give you a benchmark, there was 30% for local hire and 10% set aside for low-skilled workers, and I hope to develop and prepare similar language so that developers will be encouraged to work with our work source centers to hire people through our work source centers. We also intend to strengthen the linkages between job creation and project completion. Just in the past, I know you've had reports on state enterprise zones, so I know that's something that's on everybody's mind and that you're fully aware the program is going to sunset at the end of the year and that vouchers will continue until the end of 2014. And I'm sure you're aware of the governor's Go Biz program for tax credits in 2 job sectors, food manufacturing, biotech, with a statewide focus and, of course, a focus on jobs that pay $12 an hour or more. And so we'll be focusing very heavily on that. On the comprehensive economic development strategy, the department will be taking over the reestablishment of that by applying for a planning grant through the Economic Development Department for planning and local technical assistance for up to $70,000 to provide support for the preparation of a new 5-year comprehensive and economic development strategy. This should help us position the city to move its economic development agenda forward, and we anticipate having a viable application ready for submission and approval to the feds by March 2014. And I think that's about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Councilwoman, tell me, what lessons have you learned? You certainly initially was a staffer and 12 years as council representative. What lessons have you learned? What's going to guide you in leading this organization as we attempt to not just centralize but really enhance our economic development strategy citywide? What lessons have you learned as a staffer and as elected?
We have some unique opportunities on the horizon, particularly with the potential for money coming back through unallocated proceeds from the redevelopment agency. And so the lessons I have learned is the importance of leveraging public money with private money, grant money, to create mixed-use opportunities, housing with retail, commercial, and obviously tie it together with jobs that are needed within the given area or demographic, but also a strategic plan to provide a pathway for people to get jobs, and our work source centers provide that. Just as a sidebar, on December the 19th, we'll be receiving responses to our request for proposal to redefine the way we do business through our work source centers by making them sector-based. And we had a bidders conference. It was very, very well attended. Well over 100 individuals attended on behalf of their organizations. Some of the sectors include biotech, healthcare, travel, tourism, culinary arts, construction, trades. So I think you'll see a greater focus in being far more strategic and making sure that we don't just build projects, but that they're tied to putting people back to work, and that's what I've learned.
And how do you see your office assisting the council offices in advancing economic development projects in their districts?
Well, we're fairly familiar with some of the projects that have been stalled for years in certain districts, and we obviously will work to provide technical assistance and guidance on how to overcome some of those issues, and then to help council offices generate and create new ideas, new projects, new strategies for leveraging funds.
Thank you. Members, any comments? Councilwoman Martinez?
Good afternoon, Ms. Perry. I have a couple of questions. So, you've had tremendous success as a council member in downtown, which a lot of it's spilled over to South LA area. Mm-hmm. How would you use your success in achieving the same type of economic growth, for example, in areas like in the San Fernando Valley?
Well, I would obviously, first of all, work closely with the representative of the area, but to dig very deep on what are the potential revenue streams there, property tax revenue, leverage any opportunity that we can, including the money that may be coming back from the dissolution of the redevelopment agency, and to make strong recommendations based on not only experience but facts and figures to demonstrate how you and your community can begin to attract redevelopment or rebirth on a commercial corridor, for example, by looking at ways to build a chamber of commerce with small business owners, leading up to perhaps the formation of a business improvement district, which will lead to, further investment in your neighborhood retail corridors. Maybe that it would be along a transportation corridor, working with local housing developers to then consider building workforce housing for young people, for grandparents raising their grandchildren, people who are working but may not make a lot of money but make some money, and then to begin to diversify along those major corridors, protecting the single-family neighborhoods so that people will be receptive to redefining their communities and not in opposition to it, but supportive.
I would love to invite you to my district and help me tour parts of Panorama City and Van Nuys that I'm very interested in, and coming up with an economic development plan for the area. I have two more questions. The debate on over the merging of the planning department and the building and safety seems to be an ongoing issue. What are your thoughts in terms of, particularly as both departments impact economic development, how would we deal with that issue itself? I mean, the merger isn't going to happen. I mean, I anticipate that it's really not going anywhere, from what I can tell over the last 3 months. But both departments really impact economic development. So you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, actually, with respect to planning, I think it was extremely critical as a council member to make sure that you actively look for funding to make sure your community plans were completed. It's about a 2-year process, and it's a very dynamic process because it does give the community a chance to give direct input as to what they want and what they don't want, which can be a tremendous roadmap for you as the member in terms of what you seek, what you want to bring in, and what you want to grow that's already there. To me, that was one of the greatest accomplishments that I was able to do in South Los Angeles, because the plan hadn't been updated for 20 years. And it's probably the case with your area.
And how would the department play a role in ensuring that these work source centers are successful?
Well, on the work source centers, we're about to have a dramatic shift in the way that they do business, because they will be sector-based. So the ones that prevail through this selection process, they may come in and say, we want to be a culinary arts work source center, and we have a large universe of partners who are going to join with us. I expect we'll see a lot of that, and I can't comment too much on it because I have to actually sit on the appeals board. But that will enable work source centers to not just focus on geography, but they'll be able to have an expertise. They'll have nonprofit and private sector partners as part of their team, and probably educational partners. I would expect that community colleges will be members of a number of these teams, so that you almost create a continuum of service for the client who comes through the door, not only for educational, with private sector partners may provide job opportunities, or at least a greater pathway into job opportunities. So ultimately we'll have to see how it all settles out, but that will be an entirely new strategy. If this works, I would like to see something similar applied for the business source centers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments, members? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have too much in the way of questions, having had the opportunity to serve as a colleague with Ms. Perry, and even if I hadn't, your USC background probably would be enough for me to just vote aye. But that being said, I do think I need to say this is a tremendous appointment that our mayor has made, because Ms. Perry has more than the usual amount of proven track record of achievement in the exact area that she's going to be overseeing in this department. And your district was, I think, very much a tale of two cities. You had some of the wealthiest individuals in America and some of the most powerful corporations in America there, as well as some of the most vulnerable and poorest people in our city. And you served both with your economic development work that you did as a council member, and to the benefit of all. And I know that I've spoken with you offline about trying to gain some of the benefit of your experience and your assistance with some of my priorities, the leading one of which, of course, is Valley Plaza and Laurel Plaza, two incredible opportunities for transformative economic development in the East San Fernando Valley. And I'm really looking forward to working with you on that. I think for today's purposes, the nominee is tremendously qualified, and colleagues, I'd ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Any other comments, members?
Well, congratulations to what Mr. Gregorian said, but let me turn around his SC cup that he's facing my way. They're on both sides.
Just in case.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I think the benefit you definitely have is not only serving as a councilwoman, seeing how the council works on the dynamics there, but also having represented, like Mr. Gregorian said, the two opposites, really, and to see the transformation of downtown in your tenure, knowing what it takes to move some of these projects forward, where the pots of money are, how do we leverage that, what type of vision we would like for the whole city now, and you not only looking at downtown in South LA, but now the city. I think that is great assets to have to lead this department, a new department that is going to really need someone like yourself to lay the strong foundation of this department so that it moves ahead strongly after your initial tenure, whenever that may be. But you're there not only to move these policies forward and make economic development happen, but you're really the first head of this very important department for the city. So someone like yourself, I hope and will set a strong foundation for it. So thank you.
Other comments? Well, I think it's unanimous. Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, only that the
Councilman
First
Cedillo.
District looks forward to working with our new general manager and continuing the great work from downtown. And the question is always on my mind: how do we move this incredible success in downtown and grow it outward? And particularly, for me to be specific, the northeast part of Los Angeles. I mean, it's just, downtown's just booming. I think it's gone, and we're like at 2.0 on downtown revitalization. Top restaurants of the country now, and just constantly growth, quality of life, and civic activity down there. It's just through the roof. And so, both of us live downtown. We see it every day. But how do we get that to grow northeast? And there's a gap between Silver Lake and downtown. How do we fill that in with the same type of vitality?
Well, you can reach out to developers who are very creative and are accustomed to building mixed-use projects. You can look at your housing stock as a platform from which to spring and then leverage money to bring in the neighborhood retail. But of course, the jobs. I mean, some projects can be catalytic and employ great numbers of people, like healthcare clinics. Larger operations, but in neighborhoods, you focus on the transportation corridors because, you get people who don't have cars, who need housing that's reasonably priced or highly affordable, and provide them with good housing stock, with amenities within their own community where they can shop and they can actually work, and then you begin to rebuild a community and to develop that connectivity. Having lost the redevelopment agency was an enormous loss because that was a tremendous source of revenue where we could take money from the downtown area, from the Bunker Hill Housing Trust Fund, and leverage it into other areas that were not generating revenue. I did a lot of that in South Los Angeles, so now we have to look at other opportunities. When I come back to you after the unallocated proceeds from the redevelopment agency are back from the state, we'll have a conversation, and I'm sure that you'll have a vigorous debate on how to best leverage those funds for communities that don't generate revenue, and that's a way to build a foundation.
Further questions? So, two other things I seek your help in. You and I, all of us are committed to robust economic development. There's a lot of NIMBYism. Everybody wants to have a Los Angeles. It seems that they're fixated on the 1950s or the 60s, and that's not a reality today. We've got a very diverse population and density. How do you address those concerns? What experiences?
Well, you know, I talk to people about their families, and I tell them that, you know, your children can't afford to buy the house that you raised them in, and so we have to build Los Angeles for not only you, but also for the next generation. And how are we going to do that? Again, you know, people complain about things like traffic. One of the fastest way to get people out of their cars is to build housing and retail and commercial on the transportation corridor, so they don't need to have a car at all or all of the time. And look at the demographic shifts that we face. We have more grandparents raising their grandchildren than ever before. So we have to build places for people to live, places that they can afford, places for people starting out, places for older people who find themselves raising a second generation of children, and to be able to build them in areas where not only you're attracting investment and jobs, but you do it in such a way that they can be self-empowered and not reliant on, you know, having to buy more things that they can't afford. But the best way to overcome NIMBYism is to take people to see something that is successful and that is already done. And when they see and they go in and they see a place like the Downtown Women's Center, or they go into Rittenhouse Square, or they go into the Dunbar Hotel, and they see people in there living very calm, healthier lives in beautifully done, well-executed projects, you know, that can overcome a lot in terms of bias, because they see their own family members in there.
Any other questions, members? I think it's unanimous. We're certainly going to favorably recommend your appointment. We look forward to working with you and appreciate your service.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, item 2, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 2 is a city clerk and CAO reports relative to adding and adjusting positions to support the Business Improvement District Support Program, which is proposed to transfer to the EWDD, and authorization to temporarily postpone transfer of the bid program to the EWDD, and approval of position allocations and funding for the bid program to remain within the city clerk in the interim.
Okay, we have a report.
Good afternoon, members. My name is Holly Walcott. I am the interim city clerk, and I hope to both confuse you and then de-confuse you, because there are 2 city clerk reports in front of you. The original city clerk report was going through as part of a budget motion, and it had requested the city clerk to report back on which positions would be needed for the transfer, and we did provide the original report, and that was going through, and it had been approved by Personnel Committee, and then subsequently 3 positions had been approved by or recommended for approval by the Budget Committee. Subsequent to that, we worked together, the city clerk worked together with EWDD, and it was determined that we may need a little more time before the transfer. So that is why these reports the original report was pulled back in front of you, and then subsequently we wrote an additional report recommending that the positions remain at the city clerk for an additional 6 months. So I suppose it begs the questions on whether we do need the original 3 that was approved by Budget and Finance and Personnel Committee, and they are funded through the Business Improvement District Trust Fund, and because we still anticipate there being a transition, and because these positions are still required, one being the chief, We are still a management analyst short, and we are still an accounting clerk short. So we would still recommend those positions go through, and we recommend that the programs all remain at the city clerk for the next 6 months, and that's what the reports in front of you do. So I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, it seems that as there are no questions, we're going to, let me tell you what we're going to recommend, and you can comment on. We're going to recommend approval of the CAO report dated September the 3rd, and then approve the city clerk report dated December the 5th, which I think outlines the comments that you made.
Okay, but the CAO report contradicts both what Personnel Committee and Budget and Finance did, so there would then be 3 different reports going forward to council for the council to determine which report would be actually adopted, just for your information.
Okay. Counsel? Clear as mud.
Well, so let me take one step back and make sure that I understand what you said, Ms. Walcott. So the added positions would stay with the work. So if you are going to continue to take responsibility for the bid administration, those budgeted positions would stay with the work for the next 6 months.
Correct.
And then after that time, if the transfer is in fact completed as had been anticipated, then the positions go with the work.
Correct.
Then I would concur with that recommendation as well, and I think.
But that's different from what the chair just
So
recommended.
explain to us then how the CAO recommendation differs from that.
Well, I can
Because
explain.
I'm
Yeah, go ahead.
trying
That's okay.
I'm trying to do it on the fly a little
Trina
bit.
Unzigar, Office of the CAO. What our report addresses is the initial city clerk report. And that report assumed that the function would be transferred over in January to EWDD.
Right.
And because of that, there was a discussion in the city clerk report regarding the EWDD resources that were needed. And so what our office offered was a modified recommendation, which was to consider the additional resources that EWDD may need at the time that the 14-15 budget came forward. And that way you could get a holistic look at the department and determine what resources are needed in conjunction with the priorities of the department and other resources they may have. So that is, I believe, in August or September city clerk report. We responded to that. Since then, there's a December 5th or 6th city clerk report that comes forward that no longer focuses on the movement to EWDD at this time. Rather, it's looking at retaining the positions in the clerk at least through June 30th.
Right. So
And we do not have a report on file for that report.
So your recommendations really predated the decision to, or the recommendation to preserve the positions and the work in the clerk's office for 6 months.
The recommendation that we provided was, yes, you're right. It did address the positions in EWDD, and our recommendation was to review those in conjunction with the budget process.
Okay, so nothing that we would do under the clerk's recommendation would prevent us from also conducting that review with regard to the 2014-2015 budget, right?
No, in fact, I believe that might have been the purpose of adopting recommendation or adopting the CAO recommendations from the first report.
So if I can try to put it together then, for current purposes, the conglomerate of recommendations would seem to be that we continue to maintain the positions in the clerk's office for 6 months with the funding, and that in anticipation of the 2014-2015 budget, we conduct additional review, get a report back here as to the workload requirements and so forth as to whether or not that budget and the number of positions is appropriate going forward.
Right. The way you stated it would leave room for consideration in the budget, and it sounds like what you would be doing is continuing the existing authority within the city clerk's office through June 30th. Because there are existing
That's right,
resolution
Right,
authorities
but
with
we
the city
still
clerk.
need, my argument is we still need those 3 positions, the chief position, the reallocation from the senior 2 to the chief, the management analyst, and the accounting clerk, which we're still short.
You might well, and you certainly will now, but we'll discuss that in the ordinary course in the budget process, won't we, for the coming year?
Oh, we should.
Well, I mean, all positions are, whatever they are, all of your positions are going to be part of our budget discussion. So we're not precluded from having that discussion, whatever we do. But the critical thing is you don't want to lose the funding and still be required to do the work for now.
Correct. That's the December 5th report. But we were, again, hoping for the two additional positions and the one reallocation. Right now.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I don't think I could be supportive of making the decision for the coming budget year outside of the budget context now, if that's the suggestion. But certainly, retaining the budgeted funds in the positions now, absolutely. And then for the coming year, we're about to enter into budget season, so we'll consider that as we go. That would be my recommendation. Does that make sense?
So we're talking about then approving or not approving the CAO report then?
You are now you are approving the CAO report.
Okay. But not the report dated December the 5th.
You would be approving the CAO report and the city clerk part of the city clerk's December 5th, although you would have to modify it if you wanted to not include those.
We're not authorizing any positions. We're not authorizing any positions.
Right.
The other thing you'd want to do is you'd want to include a transfer between EWDD and the city clerk. There was some money that was budgeted to come over in conjunction with the bid function. And so if, in fact, you're going to retain the positions over at the clerk, regardless, you would need to ensure that there's funding transferred back over to the clerk to pay staff.
All right. Members, any comments before we go to the cards? Well, let's go to the cards, see if we can bring some further clarity to this discussion. Jessica Call, South Park Business Improvement District, followed by Lori Hughes, Gateway to LA, and Noel Fleming, Central City Association.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Lall, and I'm the Executive Director of the South Park Business Improvement District in downtown LA. I'm also the incoming chair of the Los Angeles Bid Consortium, which represents the 39 bids in the city of LA. I want to first start by thanking the Special Assessments Unit, and I'm here today with my fellow colleagues to support the recommendation to temporarily leave the Special Assessments section in this city clerk's office, but also strongly recommend the eventual move of the division to EWDD if it is done in its entirety and key management and personnel are retained. The Special Assessment Unit is a vital and integral process for our bids to do our work, and they're really the link to the city. We strongly believe it is in the best interests of both the city and the bids to move the division under EWDD to continue to promote comprehensive and collaborative economic development initiatives across the city. The vast majority of larger cities in the United States, for example, Chicago, New York, and San Francisco, all have bids that are under the umbrella of the city's economic development department. And for a variety of reasons, we believe Los Angeles should be the same. I'll leave it there, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Greetings. I'm Lori Hughes, Executive Director of Gateway to LA Business Improvement District, Century Boulevard. I'm a little confused after that the comments by Holly, but I want to reiterate what Jessica said. We're very in support of the temporarily leaving the Special Assessments Group under the City Clerk. But the key issue is that if it is moved, if that department is moved to the Economic Development Department, it has to be done with the senior management and provided enough staff to continue the good work they're doing on behalf of the city. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Noel Fleming, Director of Legislative Affairs at Central City Association. I'm just going to echo the points that Lori and Jessica already made. CCA, in his experience, has seen the impact of bids and economic development. Our sister organization, the Downtown Center Business Improvement District, has been critical in recruiting retailers and restaurants and neighborhood amenities to downtown. I think it makes sense in the long term to move the unit over to the Economic and Workforce Development Department, but it's critical in the meantime that during this delay that the logistical issues be worked out, so we're supportive of the clerk's recommendations today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's have next Stella Lopez, Gary Russell, and Tara Devine.
Good afternoon, council members. Estella Lopez, Executive Director of the Central City East Association and the Downtown Industrial Business Improvement District. I, too, don't want to repeat what my colleagues have already said, other than to add our voice to those in support of the recommendations in item number 2. Let me just tell you briefly why. Downtown Industrial Business Improvement District represents more than 300 property owners and 1,200 businesses. Not many people realize that there are still good union industrial jobs in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. And what we do in the bid is more than just provide clean and safer streets. We plant the seeds of economic revitalization. And in that work, we can find no better partner than if we are in a closer affiliation with the work that you do, that the city does, and that we can strengthen our mutual efforts. You have more than 300 private sector individuals who serve as volunteers on the boards of directors of business improvement districts. This private sector leadership should and could contribute to the city's overall economic agenda. Bringing the bid assessment unit as a whole under the auspices of the Economic and Workforce Development Department can make this a reality. They can make your jobs easier. We urge your support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gary Russell. I'm the Executive Director of the Wilshire Center Business Improvement District. Good afternoon. We were the first bid in Los Angeles Forum in 1995, and over those 18 years have enhanced the Wilshire Center Koreatown area, making it a better place for economic development. Today, about 40 bids represent now how a private and public partnership can work to enhance the city of Los Angeles. The City Clerk's Office and the Bid Assessment Unit has been an integral part of our success over those 18 years. I give a special thanks to the City Clerk's Office for their support. And as we move forward into the new department, I hope that the Bid Assessment Unit gets the resources, the staff, and other needs they need to continue the bid, to make the bid districts and the City of Los Angeles a great place to live, work, and shop. I'd just like to close with a few comments from our local residents about the work we do in all bids, and I'm sure are examples or comments they get from other bids, of the 40 bids, but local residents do say about us. But for our area, we've got some brief comments. It starts with enjoying being back to LA, spending most of my life in Orange County, enjoying the people in the neighborhood in Wilshire Center now. Thank you for the awesome job you all do for the community. Thank you for helping and keep up the great work. Thanks for the Wilshire Center. Thanks for making the Wilshire Center prettier. We appreciate all your hard work. Great job. Thank you for listening to my requests. Your young men for the Wilshire Center cleaning crew was there Thursday at Wilshire and Normandy, cleaning what was left from the Thursday street cleaning. Thank you, Wilshire Center District Clean Team. You guys rock. Thank you for making our area more beautiful. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Let me just say we really appreciate the unique role that bids play as a tool in our toolbox of economic development. And indeed, this committee will be having a hearing, a review of the bid program and hear from the bids and hear exactly what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how you can do it better. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Tara.
Hello, Tara Devine, Devine Strategies. As a consultant who works with a number of bids across Los Angeles, I thought that the committee might be very interested in a comparison to some of the other cities across the U.S. and how they manage business improvement districts. And I will leave a handout with the clerk as well for him to share with you. But to give you an idea, majority of major cities and many of the minor cities across the U.S. Do designate bid management to their economic development or similar department. Amongst them include New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, the state of Massachusetts, New Jersey, Chicago, Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Austin, Dallas, Phoenix, Seattle, San Francisco, San Diego, Long Beach, and Santa Monica. For all of these, they rest with either their economic development department or the closest comparative department to that. Some call it a commerce department, a few call it housing and economic development department, et cetera. But by and large, the majority of cities do rest the responsibility for business improvement district oversight and partnership with their economic development unit. So we really do believe that it is a better practice for the city of Los Angeles in the future to have bids as part of the economic development unit. There are some historical reasons why that was not originally the case. It originally rested with the Tax and Permit Division, which has long since moved on and been spun off as the Office of Finance. So we think that in the long run, really BID's proper place is with the Economic Development Unit and the city's economic development agenda. And lastly, I wanted to address a question that Councilmember Cedillo raised. I think one of the answers to spreading the wealth in your community and really seeing development is identifying pockets within your community where you have natural organic support, where you have motivated and creative property owners, developers, and residents and constituents, and working with them to see if a bid is something that can help further that economic development agenda.
Well, we know those pockets exist throughout the city. I'm pleased that there's a bid formation committee on Central Avenue, and we hope to soon bring that program forward to join with the other successful bids that have really made a difference, not only for businesses, but also for the community at large. Well, members, without any objection, as I said, let's approve the CAO report dated September the 3rd and approve recommendation number 1 in the city clerk's report dated December the 5th, 2013, which states that the council and mayor find that the transfer of the Business Improvement District program to the Economic and Workforce Development requires a delay through June 30th, 2014, and requires funding and position authorities for the program to remain in the office of the city clerk until such time that the program moves to EWDD. Any objection? That's fine. Okay, that shall be the order. Thank you.
Pardon me, Chair, we will also need the positions and funding transferred as well.
Is that the items here? Okay. No, I didn't. Okay. That we will include that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members, let's move on to item 5. 9.
Item number 9 is a CLA and CAO report relative to modernization options for the Los Angeles Convention Center.
Step up, one and all.
Good afternoon. Jerry Miller, Chief Legislative Analyst.
Hold on, Jerry. Let's get a little order in the room. Please, if you're going to exit, do it silently, please. Thank you for your cooperation. Jerry?
Certainly. I'll start off on our report and then turn it over to the CAO to discuss, again, some very preliminary financing issues. By way of background, and I know you've had this issue before your committee before, the council has approved a transaction with AEG to build Farmers Field on the West Hall site. Essentially that deal is done. It's really an extraordinarily good deal for the city. The bottom line is the last piece is for them to secure an NFL franchise, and if that doesn't happen by October of 2014, then basically all of the agreements are terminated. So I don't want to suggest that what's before you is any recommendation that we back off on that proposal. It's still a very solid proposal and one that we need to pursue. But the bottom line is it's really out of our hands now. It's really up to whether or not they can secure a team. Now, what that proposal or transaction also demonstrated is that we have great needs at the convention center, and it's really vital for us to invest in the convention center to be competitive and to generate the kind of economic activity that it will generate. So in the event that a team is not secured, what's before you is moving forward on what we call Plan B. Now, Plan B is certainly very doable. It is financially feasible, which the CAO will get into, and it does provide significant benefits to the city as well. It's also important to note for everyone to be clear that moving forward on Plan B would basically foreclose any discussion of having an NFL stadium on the convention center site. I think there's been some question about whether something would still fit. No, moving towards Plan B would be an alternative to get the kind of exhibit space we need to modernize the convention center, to get the additional hotel rooms that we need. So what's before you are actions that would allow BOE and our various offices to move forward with securing or releasing a task order to start the conceptual design of Plan B. The goal would be that in October of 2014, if the agreements with AEG unwind, we are prepared to move immediately with Plan B. I think that's important for a number of reasons. I think we're starting to hear already from event planners that there is uncertainty about what's going to happen. There's uncertainty about construction timing. There's uncertainty about what the convention center is going to look like and what the hotels are going to look like. So I do think it's important both substantively and to send a message to the event planning community that the city is committed to moving forward and improving the center one way or another. So again, the actions before you will move us along. Certainly would all come back to the council for approval. We're also instructed to identify funding to pay for the conceptual designs. There's also an instruction to look at what can be done now at the convention center. There are needs, irrespective of whether or not an NFL franchise or an NFL stadium gets built. There are some immediate needs that are going to have to be done in any case. So there is instruction for us to also come back to you with Convention Center, obviously, and a prioritized list of things that we should really be doing now to ensure that we remain competitive. So in summary, that's our proposal, and we can certainly, your report, we can certainly answer any questions you have.
Okay. Well, I think it's clear, again, just to restate the fact that the AEG is the city's partner on the stadium concept. And if that is not successful, then the city certainly will be looking for a way to make improvements on the convention center so that we can move forward. And that's their proposal this morning, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Members, any questions? Mr. Weezar.
So for all intents and purposes, we will know we will have a new NFL stadium by March, because although that is when the NFL finishes up its negotiations with teams, we've given them until October for them to finalize any negotiations they have to do, or their application expires. So for all intents and purposes, we'll know in March, correct?
That is understanding, and that's largely based on representations, again, that have been said publicly. When the deal was approved, the decision window for the NFL is generally in the spring, because plans have to be made for the upcoming season. And yes, you're correct. Obviously, then the deal is going to have to get closed, and that is going to take some time. So, if we don't know by the March time frame, I would start to be very concerned about whether or not it's going to happen and whether it can happen within the time frame.
Okay. And we're committed to Plan A, although we have financing for A and B either way, correct?
Well, the financing plan for A is really very clear, and again, to reiterate, there's not a penny of public money in the proposed stadium at all. No land write-downs, no taxes, no nothing. 75% of the convention center improvements would be paid for through private revenue sources, ground leases, that sort of thing. 25%, only 25% of our new center would be paid for new taxes coming directly off the convention center, basically, or the new stadium, basically property tax and some others that we wouldn't otherwise have. Now, the CEO is going to present really just sort of conceptual issues about how Plan B might be financed, but obviously, until we know exactly what Plan B looks like, if we're going to build a hotel and get private revenue that's going to offset some of the costs, none of that can be known until we really know what Plan B looks like.
Thank you.
Any other comments, members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to say again, I've said it a few times over the course of the discussion about the AAG proposal, but I have no interest really as a council member, as much of a football fan as I am, as a council member, bringing football back to Los Angeles has no material economic development benefit to this city that I can see. I supported the AG proposal for the single reason that it would allow us to have a new and modern convention center which contributes tremendously to the economic vitality of Southern California, or would, with zero public dollars going into that stadium. And that, I think, turned out to be a very good proposal as we moved forward with it and as it evolved and as the council continued to press to ensure greater protections for the taxpayers. That being said, if I think Mr. Huizar anticipated the point that I want to make, which is when we're dealing with the NFL, at some point you just have to set a clear, firm deadline, and it either happens or it doesn't happen, because they have a long tradition of playing bait and switch with cities and, dragging people along and saying, yeah, if you just give us this extra thing, then you get a team. And we can't subject the people of Los Angeles to that. So I think the timing of this seems to work so that we have a clear decision by the NFL one way or the other. If it's not going to happen, we're done with it, and we move forward with a modern convention center that's going to allow more tourism dollars, more hotel development, more TOT, more sales tax revenues, all of those things that are important to the city of Los Angeles that are going to be coming in from outside. And that's what this proposal creates a blueprint for us to do. We still have to work out how we pay for all of it, essentially, but that's what this does, right? I mean, so the timing is such that we still have that window of opportunity. It can still happen. The stadium proposal can still happen, and I ended up supporting it. I think it would be good if it did happen, but if it doesn't, we're moving on.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Right. Does not undercut the proposal for a stadium, but if that does not occur, then we've got a backup plan. And I think that's what we want to see. Okay, without objection, we'll approve the CLA and the CAO report recommendations, and we thank you for your testimony. Okay, I understand we need to have a little clarification on item 2.
The CLA will read those additional recommendations into the record.
The two additional recommendations are, one, to approve resolution authority for the following 11 positions, which comprise the bid program in the city clerk's office: 1 principal clerk, 1 accounting clerk 1, 2 senior clerk typists, 2 office engineering technician 2, 1 field engineering aide, 1 senior management analyst 1, 2 management analyst 2, and 1 senior management analyst 2. And also approve the transfer from EWDD from a fund to be determined in the amount of $431,158 to the city clerk, salaries general account. We also recommend to authorize the CEO to make any technical corrections with the assistance of the city clerk to these recommendations as necessary to effectuate the intent of the council.
All right, thank you. That further clarifies and spells out those recommendations set forth in the city clerk's report dated December the 5th, 2013, and that will be the order. That takes us to the end. Do we have any cards?
We have no cards for the regular meeting. All items are complete, and the desk is clear for the regular Economic Development Committee meeting. We can now adjourn the regular meeting at your...
All right, we will adjourn the regular meeting and reconvene the special meeting.
Item number 1.
Clerk, please read the...
Special meeting, item number 1, City Clerk Report and Ordinance of Intention to Establish the Arts District, Los Angeles Business Improvement District, and related actions.
Okay, do we have a report on that item?
Good afternoon, Holly Walcott, Interim City Clerk. What's before you is a proposed arts district bid in the Arts District in Los Angeles. The proposed budget being $1,122,536. There are 567 property owners and 753 parcels. The date for this bid term, if adopted, would be January 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, which representing 5 years. The Arts District P-bid property bid consists of approximately 60 blocks of the industrial loft arts-related located in the eastern side of downtown Los Angeles, bounded by Commercial Street and the 101 freeway on the north, Alameda Street, Garvey Street, and Vignes on the northwest and west, 6th Street, Produce Street, Imperial Street, and 7th Street on the south and southwest, and the Los Angeles River right-of-way on the east. I understand there were quite a few cards. I didn't know if you wanted to hear from the public first or ask us any questions you may have.
Why don't we take comments from the public? That might be a good way to proceed. Ms. Clerk, if we can limit, let's limit all comments to 1 minute. We've got a number, so we can make sure even more. All right, so if you can come up and be ready, Lauren Phillips, Michael Muslin, York Rothenberg, and Dilip Havani. Ms. Phillips.
Hi.
1 minute, please.
Yes. My name's Lauren Phillips, and I'm a resident of the Art District, and I support the ADLA bid back to our community, or to our community, missing it desperately. We need clean and safe, and I don't think the city can support those additional services that we desperately need. I went for a run yesterday, and there was piles of trash around, and I'm just sick of looking at it, to be honest, and homeless people sleeping on my street. I'd love it back. That's my comment.
Michael Muslin, I'm a resident of the Arts District for the last 20 years, and the ADLA is the group that possesses about 6 years of experience in owning a data capture system and being able to provide the necessary manpower and know how much manpower that is to have the necessary cleanup of weeds, graffiti, and trash, and thus be the force multiplier through our communications with the police. And I, too, missed the bid and wish it was back. And so this group can get out and running immediately. We know what we're doing, and it's the right people at the right time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Rothenberg. I'm a longtime business employer in the Arts District, been there for about 25 years. I'm also a member of the Historical Cultural Neighborhood Council, a board member of that organization. I'm also on the steering committee of ADLA, the new bid that's sitting in front of you, and other representatives in this audience. We've been wanting the services back since the competing group ended our bid about 6-8 months ago. We've been in a formation process. We've done everything we can to move this process along in an expedited fashion. We've got the appropriate petitions out. We've got the appropriate signatures. We've got the appropriate votes. We're ready to move ahead and provide the services that the community needs desperately back. So I would hope that you would all support us the way the local community is supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dilip Avnani, I'm the chairman of the group trying to bring back the BID into the Arts District. I'm a property owner in the Arts District, developing a number of different sites that I own. You're faced with the decision today to approve the bid motion that's in front of you. We have, without any support of Metro, which represents almost 9% of the district, over 55% of the property owners in favor of our group. It's an overwhelming support for what we're trying to establish. We've sat and met with these property owners, we've listened to what they've needed, and we've created a plan that gives them what they need. So we're here today to ask for your support in signing off and letting us move forward and giving the property owners within the Arts District exactly what they need. You'll hear other people talk about maybe a different opinion. The simple fact is, if you look at the votes and you look at what we've presented, 55+% without Metro have supported what we've put in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Puya Abidi, Dave Stahl, Russell Rooney, and Frank Gallo. I apologize if I botched up the names. You know who you are.
Hi, I'm Puya Abdi, a property owner in downtown. I'm doing 3 projects right now in the Arts District. I'm the new guy here. First deal was about a year and a half ago. I bought into the Arts District because of what was going on at the time. Clean streets, I felt safe. I even moved my office there about 8 months ago. I leave work at earliest at 8 p.m. at night, usually 8, 9, 10 o'clock. I've now noticed the difference when I leave at night. I would like the services back immediately. I see women with strollers. I see people on their bicycles, people walking their dog. This is what I bought into. This is why I'm taking old empty warehouses and trying to convert them into retail and office space. And I like the services back as soon as possible for the people in the area, which is the culture that I invested in. I'm here today to ask you guys. I support this group, ADLA, so much that I've asked them if I could join it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Dave Stahl, Metro Resources, and I'm on the steering committee of ADLA. I've been in the Arts District for 30 years, approximately, and so I've seen all the changes, and I'm in strong support of reestablishing the bid, and I believe it's much needed. The area started to deteriorate again a little bit, and so I strongly urge that you move forward.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Russell?
Hi, Russell Roney. I moved to the Arts District in 2007 and am a resident at the Barker Block Lofts, where I also serve as the president of the Board of Directors, HOA Board of Directors. I am a former also board member of the former Arts District bid, and I'm a current member of the steering committee trying to get the bid back on its feet. We have worked relentlessly since last July to get clean and safe services back into our neighborhood. Our homeowners desperately need these services. I'm speaking on their behalf, and we urge you to support ADLA.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gallo.
Good afternoon, Frank Gallo with Rancho Cold Storage. We're a longtime family business that has been in the area. Our family has owned it since the 1970s. The business has been there since the early 1900s. I'm also a member on the board of the ADLA and was a member of the original Arts District Board. What we're trying to do is to bring back the services. We have seen a drastic change down there in the time that the services have gone away. And I think this group of people on this board know what needs to get done in order to bring it back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Next up, V. Pilavalian, Laura Velke, Yuval. Good to see you. And Ron Bointer.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank you all being here, take your time from busy schedule. I'm here in support of the ADLA bid. I was a former bid board member, current member of the steering committee, a business owner, developer in the Arts District. We desperately need the services. The group in front of you are legitimate business people who have serious interest in the development of the Arts District, and we're asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Price and committee members. My name is Laura Velke, and I'm a resident property owner at Barker Block and a community activist in the Arts District. I'm asking that you vote no on the ADLA management plan before you. The community should be allowed to choose between the two proposed bids based on the merits of the plans and their leadership, not based on favoritism being shown by government staff. It seems to have lost sight of its role. These are private companies with taxpayers being assessed private monies. This plan has been approved under questionable circumstances and needs to go back for review. We ask this committee to deny ADLA's plan to go forward and ask that it be remanded back for review and that both plans be brought to committee at the same time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Yuval Barzemer. I'm on the board of La Raba, a local organization in the Arts District. I'm on the board of the Toy Factory Lofts. I'm on the board of the Biscuit Company Lofts. I'm a member of the advisory committee of the replacement of the 6th Street Bridge. I live in the Arts District, my business in the Arts District. I'm an active developer in the Arts District. There's one consensus in this room. We all want to restore services clean and safe, but we want to do it properly. We want to do it fairly. We want to have an even playing field so every person in the Arts District have the right to choose between two philosophies which are basically presented, and we're trying to get the blessing of the city clerk and the city attorney for both plans so people really have a choice. The current plan doesn't qualify for one reason. I have a market which we just opened less than a year ago, and for some reason it's not part of the current boundary of the proposed district. There's absolutely no explanation in the plan why it was excluded. The boundaries have meaningless rationale, and I think the city clerk and the city attorney should be able to answer how come they allowed this kind of thing to happen.
All right, thank you. Mr. Boitner?
My name is Ron Boitner. I own property at the Art District. I'm the president of the Art District Community Council Los Angeles, and I'm also an academic that run an academic business out of the Art District. As you have seen in the email that I sent all of you earlier today in the morning, we have a whistleblower report about improprieties that took place both at the city clerk and at the city attorney. We feel that these should be investigated. The fact is that we have two bids, maybe the only place in the country when we have two bids competing for the attention of the community. One bid has been rushed through by the city, another bid has been stalled by the city continuously. One bid approved in 5 weeks, another bid we couldn't get a meeting before 8 weeks, and even then we were not given any proper documentation about what was wrong with our proposal and how should we approve it. It was done only verbally. I strongly urge you to vote no on the proposal in front of you today, so both bids can be vetted by the city authorities and be brought in front of the community. Only the community should make the vote about which bid should be moved forward or not.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Last two speakers, Paul Solomon and George Rollins. Please come forward.
Hello, hello, committee members. I have lived in the Arts District for the last 13 years. I developed, along with Yuval, the Toy Factory Lofts, the Biscuit Company Lofts, other properties on 3rd Street. I've followed, in a way, in George's footsteps. He started developing the community in the late 70s. I want to say that I agree with what Yuval and Laura and the other folks who are saying to vote no. I agree with that. And I also want to say that there isn't a big rush, that the folks who are part of the ADLA bid board are come up here and said there's a big rush, there's trash on the streets, there's a tremendous demand for the neighborhood for these services, and I want to say that that's not true, that the neighborhood's doing great, that these services are, I'd say, in general desired by the community, but I think it's much more important to get it right, get the right group that actually is going to grow the neighborhood so that it doesn't lose its soul in the process.
All right, thank you. Thank you for all the testimony. Let's get staff back up to the... Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I thought we had you here.
Good afternoon. My name is George Rollins. I've been down in the Arts District since '75, and we developed the first artist in residence building down there. It was done by artists, for sure. And I really know, I think, everything there is to know about this community. I've lived down there ever since then. I've raised my son, my granddaughter there. I really know the community, and I was on the police advisory board for 10 years back in the late 80s and early 90s when things were rough, and that's not the case anymore. But we do need leadership there. We need people leading the community, I believe, that actually live in the community. And I think this is a very important issue, and I hope that you will give our group a chance, an even field to play on here. We all live here, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony and that of the others as well. We're going to ask staff to come back to the table, and let me ask Councilman Huizar, in whose district this project is, for his insight and
Thank you.
comments on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, we talked in an earlier agenda item how important bids are to the cleanliness and economic development potential of certain areas of the city. And certainly here in the Arts District, where there's been some pioneers who've lived there for many decades, but now you kind of see this area emerging. And when this bid went away because of a lawsuit, I think we lost a tremendous asset for the area. We do need to have something in place as soon as possible. I committed, once this bid had gone away, that I will do anything within my means to support the department, support the city clerk in expediting the processes to have a bid in place as soon as possible. And I think we've done that. And I did hear a comment about how maybe one of the bids that had been proposed, there were some setbacks. But I do believe those setbacks were not because of anything intentional on our department side, but because being that it's a new type of bid that in the previous city attorney administrations weren't supported, that may have been some of the slowdown, in my belief. I could be wrong. But what I see today is us having something that I think speaks to what a lot of the community members would like to see. I do have some questions, however, on this bid, because we received a package yesterday about some questions that were raised about whether this is ready to move forward or not. So I want to pose those to the city clerks, that if just to make sure that everything is in place, if it is. And the first question is, there's a claim that the assessment rates proposed in the engineer's report contradict assessment rates proposed in the management district plan. Can you shed some light on that? Did you find that these reports contradict each other?
Holly Walcott, interim city clerk. Basically what the claim alludes to is it has to do with the cap on increases. But no, we did not find that they contradict. One has to do with there being a 5% cap rate per year. The second scenario allows the bid to make a reduction. So you would not necessarily have to increase to the 5% any year. So on the reduction, it allows them to go back to the previous baseline. So they're really two different things and not the same thing.
Okay, so you didn't find that did you find that the reports contradict each other?
No.
No. Okay. In the management district plan, have all the parcels been correctly assessed?
Yes.
Is there any reason to believe that some units were incorrectly assessed?
No.
I've heard some concern over the proposed bid that's before us on their boundaries. Did you find that the proposed boundaries are in compliance with all codes and requirements?
I am about 75% on that particular issue. We, again, like you, received the complaint yesterday, and we've been diligently trying to review all the issues. I'm fairly certain that I understand the boundary issue, but I would need additional time to verify it.
So you would need an additional time to verify that the boundaries are in compliance with all codes and requirements.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any confusion about the boundaries? Well, you just answered that. Would you say that this bid, the boundaries covers the Arts District?
That's my understanding, yes.
And finally, have you certified that all of the information provided in ADL's application is accurate?
We review it. We are not engineers, so we do expect the engineer to do their portion of it. For example, they made a complaint about the Ferran survey, and that's not something that we could verify, but we do verify parcels and the calculations. We do check the boundaries. The particular complaint asked about that there are 4 parcels that are out of the bid that they claim should be in, and that's what we need to double check. As I look at the parcels, they are 4 large, thin, that are
Industrial.
Glenn, maybe you could
Yes.
give what they are.
Glenn Robinson, Administrative Services. Yeah, the 4 parcels that were indicated in the complaint are not included in the bid. They're, to answer that question, are they included? They were identified properly in the map and in the list of intended assessed properties.
Is that problematic that they weren't included?
No.
That's the remaining question, is whether or not they should have been included. Basically under Prop 218 is like parcels have to be assessed like. And the reason I'm 75% is because, and my problem is I don't know if it's north, south, east, or west. I have dyslexia that way, but which side is that, Glenn? That's the south side?
This is the south side of 6th Street.
Okay, so the south side of 6th Street, it's the
I'm
back
the same
of these
with
parcels.
measurements. I don't know how to do it.
The south side of 6th Street, these are the back of the parcels. So one could argue that they do not benefit, but I would want to go out there and look and see it, and I have not done that. Again, just having seen the complaint yesterday.
Okay, so in summary, would you say that the application then is complete and ready to move to council?
Again, I think I would feel more comfortable verifying that boundary question.
Okay. My wish as the representative of the area was to have a bid in place as soon as possible. And that was my goal from the beginning. I wasn't aware or did not know whether it was going to be 1 or 2 groups applying for this bid. And I haven't favored one bid over the other, and I hope and I think, I don't know, the departments, I'm not there every day, but I don't think from what I've seen that they favored one bid over the other.
We do not.
But what I would like to see is, as we move forward through this process, without really delaying in the big picture, us having a bid in place in a reasonable time, that we have both of these bids in council more or less around the same time so we could assess both of them, which ones benefit the community the most, which one makes more sense, et cetera. And I think if we don't have to wait too much time for that to happen, and I don't want to delay anymore. There was a suggestion that we hold this off for the purpose of the other one catching up, but that may be possible if, in fact, it doesn't delay us too much, right? And we get the benefit of a comparison before we approve one, and then there comes another one, and what will we do at that time? What will happen if we approve one and then another one comes and fills in, dots all the I's and crosses all the T's? What position are we in as a city?
If they were to come in at the same time?
No, if we approve one and then the other one comes in.
The other one can't go forward because you cannot have a bid overlapping the
So it
same
would
area.
be moot. We wouldn't bring it to council.
Correct.
Okay. And what happens if we bring both to council at the same time?
If they both came to council at the same time, they would both go out to a Prop 218 balloting, and they would both come back either approved or disapproved. It would then become a council decision.
It would become a council decision. Okay, if both come at the same time.
If they both had affirmative Prop 218 balloting, or neither one received a majority protest.
Okay.
They would both have been deemed approved by their constituency, but the body that has the authority to establish a bid is the council itself. So you could have both of them before you saying yes, and you still have the authority to say no.
Okay. And how much further behind is the other bid?
I don't have staff here that can tell me that.
Now, further behind, we mean what, in the process? In other words,
Yes, they have.
are they gathering signatures now? They've not turned their signatures in? Is that
They have submitted drafts. They do not have a draft that has been approved for circulation for petitions.
Okay. Now, on this bid, the one that's before us, should we move it forward, get approved in council, they still have to go back?
We'd have to do the Prop 218, and once the Prop 218 passed or didn't pass, the council would have the authority to either approve or disapprove it.
And I'm sorry, Councilman, what's the Prop 218?
Prop 218, actually, probably easier for me to defer to the city attorney on how to explain it, but it's...
City attorney here? No?
Or Christie? Sorry.
Just trying to get the terms clarified while we're all here.
I think you can explain it better.
Christy Numano here, Deputy City Attorney. Proposition 218 is part of the Constitution, the state Constitution, and it requires for any assessment district that special procedures are followed. That's part of the balloting, mailings that she explained, but it also has legal requirements such as the requirement that all parcels that specially benefit must be included in the bid. It requires separating special benefits from general benefits, quantifying the general benefits. There's a lot of those types of procedural requirements in Prop 218. So there's a state law that provides the authority for levying the assessment, and then Prop 218 is an additional overlay. It's an additional constitutional protection for the assessees.
So you still have to go out to get a vote from the
Yes.
closed assessment, and you still have to go through that procedure. And if we approve this today, how long do you think this would be in council if we move forward today?
When would it be scheduled in council?
When would it be scheduled? Were we planning on doing this before the Christmas break, after the Christmas break? Holiday break, I mean?
I would think it would be next week.
Be next
Before.
week? Okay. And would that be sufficient time for you to review this, or do you get you from 75% to 100%?
Yes.
That's sufficient time?
Yes.
Oh, so you could have those answers in council next week? Okay. All right. Well, colleagues, thank you. What I'd like to recommend then is that I hope that we could at some point after we do the Prop 218 processes for both bids, and without holding this one back and the other one, not without losing too much time, that at some point we'll have both of these in council at the same time to do an evaluation of the pros and cons of each one. But I think at this time, I'd suggest that we move this forward, have Holly review this, and feel confident that everything is ready to move forward and complete by the council meeting. If Holly doesn't think everything's complete at that time, we're going to have to hold it in council until after the holidays. But at this time, I think we should move forward, have this item heard in council, get the city clerk to give their seal of approval. And my hope is, because we're still months away in these months of time that we have that both bids are working, that we at some point get both bids before the council together without losing much time. Because if we have this one ready to go and the other one's still way behind, we're going to have to move forward with one because we need something out there as soon as possible.
Okay, members, the recommendation is to accept the city clerk's report as presented. Councilman Cedillo?
So is your goal to put both bids before us?
No, the other bid's not before us today. My recommendation...
No, not today, but...
At some point.
What I heard you say, some of the things I heard you say was that since this is ready, there's no purpose, no reason to delay it, but that that there would be opportunity for the other bids to go through their process, and that at some point, both bids would be before us.
Yes. In
That's the goal.
Yeah. And this one would be in council before us next week to get the initial go-ahead for them to go conduct their voting procedures from the constituents.
Right, but ultimately, both go through the same process and then ultimately come back to us.
Yeah.
Similar process.
Similar.
Not the same, but similar.
What's the distinctions?
One is being formed under the state law, one is being formed under local ordinance. So
Is that the vote threshold difference? Is that what
there's a
the difference?
30% petition on the city ordinance, and there's a 50% threshold on the state. And there's a few different things, but none of them.
All right. Councilman Concordia.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. What I think I've heard from most of the speakers and from council member for the district is that time is of the essence, and we've certainly heard that when we've discussed this bid in the past as well, and the great service that the bid has provided to the businesses in this area. I think in a perfect world, it might make sense to have competing applications be considered together, but we don't live in that perfect world. And in every business community throughout Los Angeles, there could be an incumbent bid in place, there could be a petition moving forward to get a bid put in place, and there might be somebody raising their hand and saying, wait a minute, we can do it better. Well, we can't delay the process of approval of valid bid applications while we're waiting for somebody else to say whether or not they think that they should be considered. My understanding is that that's not the role of the council. The role of the council is to make findings in determining whether this application meets the requirements of law. Is that right?
Correct.
And so if this application meets the requirements of law, when we vote on it next week in council, we're done. This bid is, that part of our job is completed. And, the ballots will go out and so on in the future, but our job is not to make the qualitative assessment between competing bids. Our job is to say, does this application meet our requirements, meet the requirements of the law? Isn't that right?
At this stage, but ultimately, the city council does not have to approve any bid. So even if they were to meet all the requirements, it actually becomes incumbent on you to make a qualitative assessment at the end of the day, but not necessarily at this stage.
Okay. So then I think, if I understood what Mr. Weezer was saying, full speed ahead, and at some point further down the road, there may be an opportunity to make that assessment. But right now we need to move forward with this bid application that's before us, have it considered in council, and you'll tell us at that time whether or not you still have any concerns over the maps. But in the meantime, full speed ahead, right? I mean, so I would certainly second that.
And thank you. And Mr. Chair, I think the motion was that we still, with the caveat that the clerk still needs to verify some items, and she will report on those at the city council meeting.
Okay. All right. Without objection, that will be the order. We'll accept the report, subject to clarification from the clerk's office on the boundary issue discrepancy. And we will wish both competing applications good luck. Good luck and good stead. All right, we'll take a look. We have a place for the runner-up.
Yes.
Any other business, members? Any other business before us this time, Mr. Clerk? Any other business?
That clears the desk, sir.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Welcome.